Hey, it's our 70th anniversary.
Wait, what? It depends on how you want to count. You could say it's our 150th anniversary.
Come again? How's that?
Well, the Unitarians first came to Olympia back in 1872. They even had their own church building and everything.
But after 21 years of serving the community, didn't the church close after the financial panic of 1893? They had to sell the building.
And then it took another 70 years for Unitarianism to spring back to life in Olympia.
Yes, and spring it did, in 1952. That's when a small group of like-minded people gathered together and decided to start a fellowship. You know, a lay-led group without a minister.
Yeah, and they called it the Unitarian Fellowship of Olympia, the UFO.
I heard that the UFO first met in people's homes. Then, when more people joined in, they started renting places.
Yeah, I know that one of the places we used was the Olympia Women's Club down on Washington Street.
They say we kept growing, and eventually we needed our own building.
Yep. And I think the congregation developed an edifice complex.
So we bought that little white church at 2nd and B Streets in Tumwater in 1968.
It was built in 1872, the same year that our earlier Unitarian congregation was formed, and it's still there.
Oh, and don't forget, in 1961, the Unitarians and the Universalists merged and created the UU Association, the UUA.
Yeah, but we kept the UFO as our name for another 30 years or so. Stubborn, I guess, but we were still a fellowship.
In the 1960s and the 1970s, we really got active in social justice work. We offered draft counseling during the Vietnam War, you know.
I heard we got involved in Native American rights, mental health services, and a bunch of other local issues too. What a time!
And about then, we started experimenting with a part-time minister in the pulpit.
I think Bill Arnsmeyer was the first minister. Who knew?
Yeah, sounds like a lot of debate went on back then about how churchy we wanted to be. But eventually, we also hired someone to play music some Sundays. Big step. Wowza!
In the 1980s, we realized that if we were going to continue to transform our values into action, we needed serious money. We began to talk about pledging.
Oh boy, I bet that stirred up a hornet's nest.
It did for a while, but once the decision was made, things really got rolling in the 1990s.
I think it was about 1990 that the Reverend Sandra Lee was first made our first full-time minister.
And you're not going to believe this, but Darlene Sarkala started as our church administrator in 1991. She's been holding this ship together for 31 years.
And then, even though he'll tell you it was only 7 years ago, Troy Fisher, our fantastic choir director, signed on in 1996.
What amazing luck we've had.
Meanwhile, we started a number of traditions that lasted a long time. A women's retreat, family camp at Camp Seymour, mushroom hunts, a strawberry festival.
And then, after another serious spasm of edifice envy, we built and moved to our present home in Northwest Olympia in 1993.
Yeah, and we changed our name too. We became a congregation. What a year that was. New building, new name.
Yeah, but OUUC, it's not nearly as cool as UFO. But I guess we're stuck with it.
It's like we were coming of age or something.
We installed a sound system for the hearing impaired.
Launched a website.
Computerized our bookkeeping.
Serious stuff.
Serious, yes. About this time, we achieved recognition from the UUA as a welcoming congregation for the LGBTQ community. That's one that welcomes everyone, no matter who they love.
Then, in 2002, we called Reverend Arthur Vaney to be our settled minister. Arthur's arrival started another growth spurt.
Yeah. Then we had 2 buildings, the church and the annex next door. A minister, a church administrator, a part-time religious education person, a music director, a custodian.
You know, in 2007, when Olympia was beginning to experience a crisis of homelessness, the OUUC congregation voted unanimously to offer some of our land to the unhoused as a place to camp.
That was the beginning of Camp Quixote, and our struggles with city rules and insurance standards to make it legal to do the right thing. Boy, I hear that was quite a time.
Eventually, 5 local faith communities took turns hosting the camp for 3-month periods. What a lot of work that was for everybody.
My goodness, yes. And you know, right from the beginning, the first residents of Camp Quixote had a vision of building something more permanent. And
so, in 2013, after huge amounts of work by folks from OUUC and the larger community, Quixote Village was built on the west side of Olympia.
I heard the village opened on Christmas Eve. 30 tiny houses providing permanent supportive housing for our houseless neighbors. What a gift.
Really. But then all that activism drew more people through our doors. We needed more room.
yeah, remember? You could hardly hear yourself think in the foyer during coffee time. And our DRE's office was in the closet in the kitchen.
So, in 2010, we started building again. We added a wing for religious education and the commons, and we made the administrative area and the kitchen bigger.
I bet it was fun when everyone got to paint their handprints on the insides of the walls in the RE wing. They're probably still there.
We could go on and on. So much has happened at OUUC. Oh, don't forget the support of our partner church in Transylvania and all our trips to visit. The choir, a group of our youth, lots of us.
Yeah, well, we better wrap this up. But there was all that work, trying to figure out who we are and what we want to be after Arthur retired.
And the transitional ministers who helped us do that.
And our first unsuccessful attempt to find our next settled minister.
And we found that other justice causes needed our attention.
Marriage equality, climate change, racism, and white supremacy. So many issues are calling us.
Now we are installing our second settled minister, Reverend Mary Gear. How great.
We sure have come a long way from that small lay-led fellowship that began it all in 1952, I tell you.
Or even longer, from that first Unitarian church in Olympia in 1872.
Happy
70th anniversary, OUUC.